Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks for joining me today. I'm here with the fifth and final round of this Modern Friendly League. I'm currently sitting at 3-1. I just lost a pretty frustrating round to Burn. It happens, but we're going into this last round 3-1. Got a good chance to go 4-1. In this league, I've been testing Smuggler's Copter, and it's really been outstanding so far. I think it's played a large role in 3 of the 4 games, and as a 2 of, that's pretty awesome. Every time I've seen it, it's done a good job. So feeling pretty high on that card choice right now. I think I lost the last 3 die rolls and lost this die roll, but get rewarded with an amazing opening hand. AEther Vial and Smuggler's Copter with 2 lands, 2 Merfolk, and a Spreading Seas. Probably the best hand I've seen in this league so far. The opponent mulliganed to 6, kept, and we can see how their scry went. They put it on the bottom, so pretty advantageous start for us. Okay, so Insolent Neonate. This is Dredge. I'm playing 4 Relic of Progenitus in my sideboard, which makes the post-sideboard games feel really good. Relic, it can just be such a beating against Dredge. You guys probably know that already. But game 1 can be really difficult. They're a really explosive deck. I'm going to open up the graveyard here since that's typically where the action is against these guys. But we have an explosive opening as well, so let's see how it goes. Opponent sacking the Neonate and pitching a Golgari Thug. I think they're going to Dredge this guy. Let's check him out. He's got Dredge 4. So Conflagrate is pretty much the card that we least want to see in their graveyard. This thing is so obnoxious because we could be controlling the board entirely. They cast Light from the Loam, draw 3 lands, pitch 5 cards, and just fireball us for 5 to the face. Really overpowered card in this deck. But they don't have any dredgers right now, important to note. They do have to just go to their draw step. Oh, I'm sorry. No, they have a Dakmor Salvage, so they got to Dredge 2. There's a good one. They hit Prized Amalgam there, so Faithless Looting, they're going to get... Well, so now there are no more Dredgers, so they just have to draw 2 and discard 2. So let's see what they discard. Probably some Dredgers. Yep. So Golgari Thug was what they dredged this turn. That's 4. And Dark Blast can be annoying against us. It gives a creature -1/-1, and they can recur it. So if they cast it... let's see. If they cast it during their... Let's see. The first thing they do is draw. Anyhow, they can use it twice. They can cast it at the beginning of their turn and then dredge it and cast it again to deal with a 2/2. So Dark Blast, potentially very annoying card against us. But pretty slow stuff overall from Dredge, at least. Let's see what they do with this. Okay, another Faithless Looting. They now get to dredge the Golgari Thug. And with Narcomoeba on the stack, let's see, what are they dredging here? Oh, and they dredge Dark Blast. So they dredge those 2 spells. They have a Golgari Thug and a Dark Blast in hand. Important to note, they don't have any black mana right now, so they can't cast Dark Blast. Narcomoeba is going to come in, and then 1 Prized Amalgam will come in. Alright, so for our turn, AEther Vial is going to tick up. We are going to play Smuggler's Copter. It is the correct sequence to play that card first because our subsequent Summoning Sick guys can be used to crew it. Okay, opponent... Sorry, I'm going to... Maybe I'll just leave this open. Okay, so he dredged Life from the Loam, which can give him access to black mana if he wants it. So going for Life from the Loam here, I let that resolve. I could have brought in a Cursecatcher and countered it. Choosing not to here. We have actually the benefit of potentially surprising the opponent by not bringing in Cursecatcher to counter Life from the Loam. Make it seem like we don't have it. The opponent attacks in and we have blocks with Smuggler's Copter. Looks like that's what he's doing actually. So get in with the Narcomoeba, very aggressive. Obviously we're going to bring in Cursecatcher. We're going to activate by crewing our Smuggler's Copter and eat their flyer. which is big, big game because it gives us a loot trigger as well. We get to pitch one of these lands and hopefully draw some gas. Yep, that's what we want to do. Oh my god, that's so amazing. With AEther Vial even, we get to get an extra Harbinger and throw away an unnecessary extra land. Pitch the Cavern of Souls, eat his Narcomoeba, take 3 from the prize amalgam, but feeling pretty good right now actually. Plays Dark Dakmar Salvage, which comes in tapped. And on to our turn. AEther Vial will tick up. Master of Waves is super awesome. Our loot will hopefully get us to that 4th land. We can bounce this guy with Harbinger. One thing we want to keep in mind is that the opponent does have Conflagrate. They dredged, let's see. They did dredge a Life from the Loam and cast Life from the Loam. So as far as we know, they don't currently have a Life from the Loam in hand. But if they dredge Life from the Loam and cast it, I think that would put them at 7 cards. So if they cast Conflagrate, they could wipe our, spend 7 mana, pretty much wiping our board. Something to look out for. I really hate this card, Conflagrate. It's such a blowout against us sometimes. But Smuggler's Copter is gonna keep us looting. Master of Waves does have some protection against Conflagrate. He himself can't be targeted since he has protection from red. I think the correct line here is to, let's see, what's the choice? I think I'm going to Spreading Seas one of, well, his green source basically right now. And drew into another Island Walk Lord. That's a ton of gas I'm drawing here. So we can bring in one of these guys now. It's probably going to be the Harbinger, and then accrue the Smuggler's Copter with the Summoning Sick guy. So get that prize amalgam off the table. Crew the Smuggler's Copter, swing for 4. We're going to get to loot again. So I think I was mentioning in the round against Burn that one of the huge things that Smuggler's Copter helps us with is when we're trying to sequence the next turn or two, it just shows us so much more information, right? I had 3 cards that I could make decisions with, but now I have 4, and that land is excellent. So we don't need all this Island Walk action. So pitch one of those guys. Next turn, I can Vial in another Lord and then cast Master of Waves. And as long as the opponent doesn't Conflagrate me right now, I should be sitting pretty. Pitch one of the Island Walk Lords. Opponent takes 4. They dredge Dark Blast. Well, that'll let him deal with Cursecatcher. See a Haunted Dead and another Prized Amalgam in the graveyard. Dark Blasting my Cursecatcher. I try to counter it, make the opponent pay 1, but the Cursecatcher's already dead, so he doesn't pay 1. Plays another Mountain. And what's the deal here? Faithless Looting with Flashback, so basically tapping out. Uses the Dredge ability for Golgari Thug. Sees a Narcomoeba. That's going to bring in a Prize Amalgam. And then uses the Dredge ability from Life from the Loam, and we see a Bloodghast. He already played his land this turn, so he's not going to get that Bloodghast. But he does get a Narcomoeba, and it looks like 2 Prized Amalgams. Alright, but he didn't Conflagrate us, and we're going to get to sort of go bananas with our board state here, I think. Another Merfolk, so we're drawing really well. I'm going to bring in the Master of the Pearl Trident here. Getting up our creature's power against Conflagrate is a good strategy. If our creatures all have like 1 toughness, then it's very easy to pick off a board state with Conflagrate. So bring in the Island Walk Lord, activate Smuggler's Copter, and get in with the guys. We have Island Walk and Flying, 2 forms of evasion. We get to draw another Harbinger. That might be the only thing that I would pitch a Silvergill away for, because Silvergills, we use them to help us dig to gas. But in this matchup, Harbinger is that gas. Harbinger bounces their amalgams and just generally does an amazing job as a beater, slowing down their plan while accelerating our plan. Opponent's going down to 10, and we're going to play this Master of Waves here. Alright, so opponent untaps. What are they going to do with their draw step? So they dredge Stinkweed Imp. Looks like they flipped over 2 prize amalgams on that dredge. That's absurd. Let's see, Stinkweed Imp, I guess, has Dredge 5. He dredged 2 prize amalgams and a Narcomoeba. That's pretty awesome. So they have seemed to be backed up on green mana. So no Life from the Loam action. Now this is really exciting. I'm not sure what they're thinking about here, what they're trying to hit. But they flashed back a Faithless Looting, taking them totally off their ability to cast Conflagrate. Conflagrate with 6, I think they had, well, I guess 5 cards in hand. They could have picked off 5 of these guys. It might have still been lethal, I'm not sure. I think keeping them off green mana is a huge thing in this game because they haven't been able to use Life from the Loam and get a ton of lands in their hand, which they can use to get a massive Conflagrate going. But this Faithless Looting is pretty pointless. I don't know what they could possibly hit. Alright, so they scooped at that point. So pretty explosive opening by Dredge, but we were able to keep pace. Smuggler's Copter once again just incredibly good. Hit us a 4th land when we needed it, and got us a Harbinger, replacing a Silvergill Adept, getting in with flying for 3 a few times. Just great. So we won game 1. You guys want to look away for a second? I'm going to click into the replay screen right now. Alright, back for game 2 against Dredge in this 5th and final match. This is a really great opening hand. We've got turn 1 Catcher into turn 2 Silvergill. We got a Spreading Seas also. Very nice hands. Opponent cracks that, and what's he got? Faithless Looting. Alright, so they get to pitch 2 Dredgers, a Thug, and a Life from the Loam. Another Silvergill. Never really unhappy to see those guys. I do bring in 4 Relic of Progenitus from the sideboard. That is the single most desirable card in this matchup. Let's see, we need to keep the chat open. Opponent Dredge Golgari Thug. Didn't get a lot of useful stuff into the graveyard. Cast Faithless Looting from his hand. So he's going to dredge Life from the Loam. Well, that's more useful. And then he dredges Stinkweed Imp. And, well, he sees another Life from the Loam. So, got some dredgers, got a Prized Amalgam, got a Bloodghast. So as soon as he cracks this fetch land, Bloodghast is going to come back, and that'll bring Prized Amalgam also. Okay, not too many choices here, so play a land, play a Silvergill. Trying to draw a Relic, didn't hit the Relic. We can attack with the Cursecatcher here because Bloodghast can't block and Prized Amalgam comes in tapped. Opponent goes to 16. Cracks that Wooded Foothills, and his creatures are going to come back, as I mentioned a couple times. Against Dredge, you're pretty much just monitoring their graveyard. Their board state, I mean, it matters, but you can get blown out really easily if you're not paying attention to the graveyard. Okay, Dredge's Stinkweed Imp, and we see another Prized Amalgam, a Conflagrate, 2 Conflagrates, Faithless Looting to flashback, and a Life from the Loam. That was a really dense, really solid dredge for them. One card I want to point out is Gnaw to the Bone. It's 3 mana, 1 green and 2 colorless for an instant. They gain 2 life for each creature card in their graveyard. So right now, they have 1, 2, only 2 creatures, so they gain 4 life. It's not a big deal, but you can imagine at some points they have a whole bunch of creatures in their graveyard, and Knot of the Bone can gain 10 or more life pretty easily. Just something to sort of keep in mind when you're playing against these guys. As well, they have a Ancient Grudge in the graveyard, so if we happen to draw a Smuggler's Copter or an AEther Vial or something, he's got an answer to that in the graveyard already. Okay, he is casting Life from the Loam, and I'm going to choose to counter that. Even though he can get it back, we want to slow them down if possible. That's going to keep 3 lands out of his hand. We know he's got Conflagrate in the graveyard. Just getting in with the Bloodghast. I'm not sure what that's about. Why would he not attack with his 3/3? I guess after last game, when we overrun him, maybe he's feeling a little bit defensive. Plays a Stomping Ground, and that's that. We didn't really want to draw land there, but we still got 2 card drawing spells to try to hit into that, draw into the Relic of Progenitus. I think we're going to play Spreading Seas. He's only got 1 black source right now, so take him off of that if possible. He's going to have access to Life from the Loam and get back lands that will reestablish black mana. But we want Island Walk anyway, so I'll go ahead and play out AEther Vial, even though I know that he's got an Ancient Grudge. Maybe he won't be able to use it because he needs to tap all of his mana down. Just pass through to the opponent. They're going to Dredge Life from the Loam. Don't really hit too much there. I think now they're going to get in with both guys. Probably a mistake to not attack with the Prize Amalgam last turn. Maybe a misclick. Probably going to follow up with Life from the Loam. Yep, there it is. He gets to get 3 lands back. Mountain, Blood Crypt, and Copperline Gorge. Plays the tapped Copperline Gorge. And let's see. Flashes back Ancient Grudge to deal with my AEther Vial. So, tit for tat. We get to play out a Master of Waves, so that's pretty nice. Mutavault. Master of Waves. Swing with Silvergill Adept. And pass the turn, probably. Let's see. Okay, so 13 to 13. Pretty tight, but the opponent does have these Conflagrates in the graveyard. Definitely have access to 2 red. Dredging Life from the Loam again. Here's Life from the Loam, getting back 3 more lands. They now have 8 cards in hand. They could Conflagrate for 8 if they wanted to. And it looks like that's what they're going for here. Click through this. So sorry, I clicked a little too fast. I think I took 2, and the opponent just dealt he only did it for 6. So I took 2, and then the 3 elementals and the Silvergill bit the dust. Opponent's going to keep cracking in for damage. They could sort of repeat that next turn, just Dredge Life from the Loam, draw 3 more cards, and then keep hitting me with Conflagrates. Important to note that I have a lot of power on my side. I've got Mutavaults who are getting buffed, so I've got 8 right now. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough. Well, Harbinger slows things down a little bit, but if we can't do lethal right now, I've only got 6 life. Again, the opponent can Dredge Life from the Loam, cast it, draw 3 lands, it's 5. They can Conflagrate me for 5. I think I'm going to bounce one of his creatures here. Well, no. Hang on. We want to draw Relic. So, of course, I'm going to play out Silvergill first. If I draw Relic, it's pretty good because I get rid of the Conflagrate, I get rid of another Prize Amalgam, get rid of all the Life from the Loams, that Knot of the Bone. It's a huge out, basically. But we didn't hit it. It happens sometimes. There's only 4 of them in the deck. We've only drawn 15 cards. Follow up with somebody to bounce one of his guys, I think. And I chose to bounce the Bloodghast because he doesn't have any black mana. It's not a big deal either way. Actually, you know what? It might have been a mistake to bounce that guy because now if he dredges Life from the Loam, plays it, and gets 3 lands, he has exactly 6 to go to my face with. So I probably should have left that guy on the table. Getting pretty close to dying anyway. Let's see how it goes. Opponent does Dredge. Life from the Loam, that sees a Narcomoeba, which is going to bring in a Prized Amalgam. Alright, here's Life from the Loam, getting 3 lands. Oh, sorry, maybe he only got 2 lands. Why did he only get 2 lands? That's weird. Huh. Super weird. Maybe another misclick. So he can't kill me with it because he misclicked. Didn't get back 6 lands, or 3 lands. But, he can still do a lot. He can get rid of my 2 creatures, deal 2 damage to me. If he plays a land that he got from Life from the Loam, the Bloodghasts come back with haste, which is pretty rough. Sorry, the Conflagrates take a long time to resolve, and I don't know like how many times to click. So 5. He's going to deal 3 to these guys and 2 to me. As I mentioned, he's got lands to play, and he's got a Bloodghast, so we were toast there. Alright, so that was game 2. Currently sitting 1-1 against Dredge. Going into game 3, I'm sitting 3-1 in the league, hoping to go 4-1. Look away for a second if you don't want to see the result of the match. I'm going to click right now. And we're back with the final game of this Modern Friendly League. 3-1 overall, 1-1 in this particular match. I'm on the play, and let's see what we're working with. Well, this is lovely. We get to play out an AEther Vial. Hopefully it won't get blown up right away. Some awesome creatures, and our number 1 card in the matchup, Relic of Progenitus. Hopefully going to get rid of a lot of cards out of their graveyard. Opponent kept as well, so hopefully a good final game for the match. So, maybe it's obvious, but we definitely lead with AEther Vial here. If they have Artifact Hate, we'd rather it hit the AEther Vial, especially with 2 lands in hand. We do not want them to pop the Relic. Sorry, we don't want them to destroy the Relic if we don't have the ability to respond by popping it. We definitely want to cycle this card. If we don't get to cycle it, it's kind of a blowout. That's a card that should be replacing itself in our hands, while also crippling their strategy. Alright, so looks like Wooded Foothills go. Very slow from the Dredge opponent. Now hang on a second. Yeah, that's right. So we were on the play. They drew a card and just played a land and passed. AEther Vial is going to get ticked up. So at this point, we can play out the Relic. We will have the opportunity to cycle it if we want to. Or we could play out Silvergill Adept, establish a board, let him commit more resources to the graveyard. Before we play out the Relic. That's the better of the 2 options. Okay, we drew a land. That's quite nice because next turn we'll be able to play out a 2-drop if we want to. Potentially also play out a Relic, but probably not because, again, we don't want to tap out our mana if we have a Relic. Always need to leave 1 up to cycle that card. They play a lot of Artifact Destruction post-Sideboard. Alright, so we've got a threat out first. Probably going to crack this Wooded Foothills for a tapped Stomping Grounds. Turn 2. What does the Dredge opponent have for us? So here's a Neonate. I think seems like it would have been pretty good on the first turn. Okay, Copperline Gorge for another Neonate. So this is really strange because they've only drawn 2 cards. Sorry. Yeah, they drew 2 cards. They drew 1 last turn and 1 this turn. So they must have had one of these Neonates in their hand last turn. Maybe the opponent's computer is broken and like he's not playing out. It seems like a couple of misclicks so far. Definitely should have played one of those guys on the first turn. Alright, we get to take our AEther Vial up, start applying more pressure. Another Island Walk Lord. Oof. Pretty rough for the opponent. So I played out a Wanderwine Hub and revealed a Lord of Atlantis, which I think the opponent already saw for the Silvergill. Yeah, let's double check that. Yep, so just revealed the same card twice, and I think I'm going to attack with the Silvergill, and if the opponent wants to block, we get to bring in a Lord It doesn't really matter because the Neonate's going to get sacked anyway to pitch something, and then presumably they have a Dredger in their hand, and they would Dredge to replace the draw effect. So Silvergill's probably not getting through here, but the opponent choosing not to block. Interesting. I'm going to bring in a Lord. I guess he's going to take 3, go down to 16. Not quite sure why that happened. The reason to play Neonate is, first of all, you can jump with him because you pretty much just sacrifice him all the time anyway without really dealing damage. So if you can stonewall one of my attacks, that's awesome. Block and then sacrifice him, discard a Dredger, replace your draw with the Dredge while saving damage. I don't know. Maybe this guy's not the most experienced Dredge player. Now, at this point, it's definitely time to play the Relic. If the opponent has Artifact Destruction, we're going to get to cycle it. We're going to get to jam 2 Lords next turn. We've got interaction with Harbinger. Sitting pretty so far in this game. If the opponent wants to crack these Neonates right now and fill up his graveyard to help him Dredge next turn, I'm going to be able to just crack the Relic and clear out any Dredgers. One of my good friends plays a couple of different versions of Dredge in Legacy, so I'm hyper aware of the graveyard against Dredge. Playing out the Relic actually prevented the opponent from sacking those Neonates to set up his Dredge this turn. Alright, so here is the Ancient Grudge. Of course, we're going to crack the Relic in response. Unfortunately, that's going to leave the Ancient Grudge in the graveyard so he can cast it again if he wants to destroy our AEther Vial. But he's currently tapped out. Looks like I drew another Lord off of the Relic. A lot of damage. Opponent can't really attack with these Neonates. Actually, no, he could if he wanted to, because they both have Menace. They would both get in, but I have a feeling he'd rather block. Okay, definitely going to leave this AEther Vial on too. And that's the 5th Lord this turn. Good Lord. So easy decision just to cast one. Swing in with both of these guys. They're probably going to get chumped on both sides with the Neonates. And this is where the opponent wants to try to set up his graveyard for an explosive turn. So the chump, and then we're going to open up our chat. Looks like they pitched a Stinkweed Imp. They're going to get to Dredge. That Stinkweed Imp, let's see. Wow, okay, so Prized Amalgam, Conflagrate. Always surprised at the good stuff that they get to throw into their graveyard. They're going to repeat the process with the Neonate, and they have a life in the loam that they can Dredge. Don't hit too much more good stuff there. Do they have a Dredger in here anymore for their next draw step? Looks like they do not. So again, pretty slow stuff, pretty reactive stuff from the Dredge opponent. And it seemed like a pretty big misstep for them to not play out their Neonate on turn 1. Not quite sure why that happened. So the opponent blocked and then sacked, so I wasn't going to push more damage by putting in a Lord, so keeping the Lord back for now. Opponent has 6 cards in hand. He could try to Conflagrate and blow up 2 of my guys by pitching all 6 cards. Instead, he goes first for life from the loam, getting back 3 lands. Now he has 8, so he could... Well, he doesn't have 2 mana anymore, so he can't Conflagrate anymore. Plays a land, cracks it, and... what? Lightning Axe the Lord. That's fine. It's 5 damage, so we can't save him by bringing in another Lord. But we can still bring in another Lord. It's another attacker. Now, this is where our Merfolk senses start tingling, because we've got so much power with these Lords. How much am I going to have to attack with next turn? Opponent's sitting at 15. We're going to have 3 bodies. Can we get our creatures to 5, 5, and 5 and finish this game? Well, I'm going to bring in this Lord right now, and it's going to be 4, 3, and 3. I've got 2 more Lords. It's going to be 6, 5, and 5. So we've got a lethal attack. A pretty quick game. A turn 5 win against Dredge. So I don't even have to think about it. He's tapped out, and we play Lord, and then bring in another Lord. I closed the chat before because I was kind of giving away the chat had advanced. The opponent said so many goddamn Lords, and it's true. I drew 5 Lords, so sometimes it seems like Dredge has the most nut hands out of like any deck. It just goes off every single game. Sometimes it's nice for us to finally get a nut hand, and especially in the last game of the league. So get to crack in for 16, and yeah, the opponent scooped it up at that point. We're going to -1. All right. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We went 4-1 in this modern friendly league. Smuggler's Copter did an excellent job in 4 of the 5 matches. Actually, every single time that we drew it, it did good work. So that card, for the time being, is definitely staying in. I feel pretty good shaving 1 Master of Waves and 1 Vapor Snag. I did add 2 Dismembers to my sideboard, so shaving that Dismember is offset by the fact that I've got more removal now in the sideboard. And you know, Master of Waves is a little bit weak to Fatal Push, so the metagame is changing. Maybe it's time, maybe it's okay to go from 4 to 3 Master of Waves. The guy's still one of the strongest cards in the deck, so we definitely want some number of him. But it might not be 4. Smuggler's Copter, you guys should all try him out. It would probably benefit the community a lot if we were all testing it and seeing if it was really, really worth the spot. Right now, it definitely seems like it is worth the spot. Let me know what you think about Smuggler's Copter. Let me know what you think about the match against Dredge here. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any other comments you might have. And just thank you very much again. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And yeah, I'll catch you in my next videos. Thanks again. Bye.